Hi, welcome back to Alex Talking, and today I'm talking about, from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. I love going to the movies, and last night I saw this movie in a double feature with Tim Robinson's Friendship, my third watch of it, my fiance's first though, which she was really excited for and did enjoy it. Double featured it in Columbia, South Carolina at the AMC Harbison 14. Had a delightful evening, was able to see this in their premium format Dolby screen. And, excuse me, to give some context, I'm actually a huge John Wick fan. I say that like it's a surprise. Anyone who knows me knows this. Anyone who, watches action movies is a huge John Wick fan pretty much because alongside Mission Impossible, this is the best and most consistent action franchise ever. And I think I may do a John Wick ranking. Who knows how many videos I'm going to make. I just got Nintendo Switch 2, been playing the shit out of Mario Kart World, and it's awesome, so could do a video on that. Might do a video about Aaron Rodgers being a Pittsburgh fucking Steeler, because he just signed moments before I start this video, and long time coming, but I'm obviously a Pittsburgh guy, Pittsburgh fan, and I don't have a second to lie, I'm fucking pumped about it. So, I'm very excited. I'm going to do a lot of videos, but maybe I'll do a John Wick video where I rank all those movies, because I love them. But right now we're talking about From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. All of this to say, I got stoned and I'm excited about a lot of things, so sorry I'm all over the place. I do have some thoughts, though, about this movie, and I'm going to get right into them now. This movie is something I was a little wary of, but also I found myself getting more and more excited for it the closer we got to it coming out. Because I'm not a huge spin-off guy. I definitely don't usually get excited for spin-offs, and sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised by them. Solo, a Star Wars story, is a good movie, and Furiosa is a great movie. Furiosa from last year is one of the best spin-offs ever. Not to use recency bias, but that I'd say is the gold standard for that. Well, that's a movie that's better than the movie it spun off. It's better than Fury Road. So that's a great one. But then you have Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, where it's a fine movie. I don't even hate that movie. I hated it the first time I saw it, but I've seen it enough times since. Saw it on a cruise a bunch of times that I've come to enjoy it. I like Jason Statham. It's a fun action movie, but it's a movie you can tell exists because the studio said to, And I'm just not a guy who's going to like those type of movies more times than not, You can put effort into a studio movie for sure, I'm not even going to lie. I like a lot of studio movies for sure. I really enjoy Mission Impossible. Like I said, all those. But there's a difference between a movie like that where there's true people really passionate about it behind it. Or something like Thunderbolts, which is just we said we were going to do that. We got to come up with a script for it. We'll do it. Pump it out. So, this is all to say, I kind of had a feeling this movie was going to be much more of a bad version of a spinoff than something that would ever have actual passion and thought put into it. Even though they were setting up the Ruska Roma and the Ballerinas all the way back at John Wick 3. So it made perfect sense that they announced they were going to do this movie. But Len Wiseman was attached to direct it. And I don't want to prematurely hate on Len Wiseman because I've not seen the Underworld films. I've seen 2 of his movies. I've seen Live Free or Die Hard, which I like. So, I don't even have any reason to hate on him because I like Live Free or Die Hard. But I really don't like the Total Recall remake. And for all the reasons I just said, I don't like movies that exist for no reason. So the only thing Len Wiseman has proved to me, really, is that he knows how to direct hot women in action movies between, Beckinsale, obviously, in all those movies, Jessica Biel in Total Recall, you got Maggie Q in Live Free or Die Hard, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So, here you have Ana de Armas. Well, he's going to know how to use that, but we're comparing it to, and comparison is the thief of joy, but if we're thinking about it, doing a movie in the world of John Wick, where the first 4 films were directed by Chad Stahelski, who made his bones directing these movies, and in only directing 4 of them has already made himself one of the greatest action directors ever, as well as David Leitch, one of the best action directors of the modern day, without a doubt. To me, he's I call David Leitch the Jordan Peele of action. I think that everything he does is at least worth going to see. He fucking directed Hobbs and Shaw. I can't believe that I just like that this is the first 5 minutes like I had this conversation with myself. This is what being a YouTuber is sometimes. You have a conversation with yourself and then you realize, wow, you think a lot of thoughts, but you forget David Leitch directed Hobbs and Shaw, which you were just shitting on a little bit 2 minutes ago. Thank goodness I said I've come to like it. Because I really do like David Leitch. Hobbs and Shaw definitely is my least favorite movie of his, just below Atomic Blonde. But every time he does a movie, it feels like an event to me as an action fan. I think most action fans can agree with that. Whereas Chad Stahelski is like the Robert Eggers of action movies, where he almost just gets better every time. You know, all hits, no misses, just refining his craft in a beautiful way. So, all of this praise for the two directors that started this, I was very nervous to see how Len Wiseman would fill those shoes. After being in director's jail for 13 years because of how bad the Total Recall remake was, I can assume at least. I don't know what his real life situation was. Maybe there's a different reason. He hasn't made a movie in 13 years. But all that being said, I had my doubts. As well as you hear about reshoots for this movie, but then I just saw an interview where Len Wiseman said that they just did additional photography and then he got sick, and that's why Chad Stahelski came in and took over for a little bit. Either way, I think you can tell which action sequences in this movie are better than other ones. That's not to say I know Chad Stahelski directed them and Len Wiseman didn't. I don't know that. But this movie, much like the John Wick franchise, is a movie that clearly gets better the longer it goes on. And that is the best praise I can give John Wick Ballerina. The beginning of this movie sucks. Now, I know I'm someone but I know usually it's much more standard to start with the good, move into the bad. I just like talking about movies. So, the beginning of this movie to me made me wary. I thought the first 15 minutes were pretty bad. And that's for one main reason. And for anyone who has seen John Wick Continental, the TV show on Peacock that came out last year or the year before that, they cast a fake John Wick at the beginning of that. They cast a fake Keanu Reeves, a dude that looks like Keanu. Same beard, same hair, same build, same suit, same action style. Just so you don't miss the Baba Yaga. But he's not the Baba Yaga. He's just a long-haired guy who's doing action. And looks like you're just watching a Keanu Reeves stunt double pretty much. But the difference is, I actually liked the one in the Continental. I thought that guy was, like, he looked like hockey player or WWE wrestler Keanu Reeves. And I thought that was fun. In this one, you literally get another fake fucking Keanu Reeves at the beginning of this movie playing Eve Makara's dad at the beginning in a flashback. And I have no idea why this dude was cast, other than the fact that he looked like Keanu. Because I can tell ADR when I see it. I know that none of the lines ever matched up with his lips. And if he's not the one actually delivering those lines, if he can't deliver lines properly, he sure as shit couldn't do the action either, because that was the most CGI heavy part of the movie. Every time that guy moves, it's complete CGI. I do not understand what at all they were going for, other than trying to replicate John Wick action. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this is just going to be bad John Wick. Okay, this is just going to be bad John Wick. And that's what I thought at the beginning of this movie, whenever it was just this guy doing CGI action. But then you jump forward, after about 15 minutes, you get to Ana de Armas. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here for. And I'll be 100% honest, I thought the first 10 to 15 minutes with her were solid. Then you're like a half hour into the movie, and she goes on her first, like, mission. And this is different for John Wick. John Wick doesn't go on missions. At the start of John Wick 2, he goes on a mission to retrieve his car and kill Peter Stormare with a fucking pencil. But you don't see John Wick go on missions. You definitely don't see John Wick have a man in his ear or a woman in his ear. And this was cool to see the Ruska Roma and how they operate. And that is why I think this movie really works and why John Wick spin-offs will work. So this is to say fully, I very much so did enjoy this movie. From 30 minutes and on, this was great. This was really, really good. And the best action movie of the year. Like, it's better than Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. And I never would have expected to say that. But from the world of John Wick, Ballerina is objectively a better movie than Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The final 40 minutes of Mission Impossible are better, but as a whole, this movie works infinitely better. This movie actually has a better story, probably, even if it's simple. It's nothing you haven't seen before, pretty much, but it's something we really haven't seen before in the John Wick universe because we've been so focused on one man's journey. And seeing just a completely different story, and with completely different action unfold in this universe of intrigue and pre-established lore with the Continental, and which is interesting. And seeing a Continental in a different country like Prague is really cool. And just like it was whenever you went to Tokyo in John Wick 4. And I think that it was just so evident how much that there was an actual solid concept for a film here that they did execute. And I don't know what scenes they shot in reshoots, but they only served to elevate the film, in my opinion. This is a movie that fully worked as a movie. And I thought Ana de Armas was excellent in the action sequences, and I thought the action sequences were super cool because she's always using the stuff in the environment with her. If you've seen the movie, you know that they say fight like a girl at the beginning of it whenever she's getting trained. And from there on out, every action sequence, her fighting style is to use everything at her disposal and throw everything she's got at them, quite literally. And I thought that was just an awesome way to give just a little twist to the John Wick fighting style. Because John Wick's, throwing axes, throwing ninja stars and like John Wick 3 and stuff. But John Wick's not, necessarily using a ice skate for an entire action sequence. I mean, that was probably my favorite sequence of the movie, other than the flamethrowers. You can watch this movie and you can see more CGI than in any John Wick movie throughout the first hour of it. It's just the unfortunate truth. That's just the truth of the matter. But they made it for a cheaper budget. It was only made for 80 mil. And you watch the 20-minute sequences in the third act with a flamethrower, and it's like, okay, I forgive all the other CGI. I fucking do. I forgive all the CGI, which I would almost never say. But because of the way they were able to capture the intensity and insanity of the flamethrower sequence and the real life locations all throughout this film looking so real and so good, it put its 80 million to use. And the flamethrower sequence is just astoundingly good. I would definitely not have assumed this going into it, but now I'm like, okay, you don't even need to do that many other spinoffs. Just continue the John Wick, and you don't even need to do John Wick 5. Just continue the John Wick franchise with Eve Makara, the ballerina. She was a cool character. She is a good actress, and she does good action. That is the best result you could have hoped for coming out of this movie. That I actually want to see more of just this character. Not even like, yeah, that was shockingly good. I want more John Wick movies. Or movies in the John Wick universe. I want more ballerina movies. I just want more movies directly in this line of movies. Who knows where she would go from here? Oh, wait. The same way the John Wick franchise did. If you've seen the movie, it ends, spoiler alert from here on out, 14 minutes in. I will say I give this movie a 3.9 out of 5. But from here on out, there's going to be spoilers. It ends the same way John Wick Chapter 2 does, by a hit being put out on her, and she's on the run. So, I really hope this does well, because I see no reason not to just make Ballerina 2 and make John Wick 3, but with her, and just continue fleshing out the story in new, different, unique ways. Ian McShane as Winston is just never not going to be so lively to see on screen. Just so wonderful. I don't know a better character actor to chew scenery in action films than the stuff Ian McShane does in these movies. I can't praise him enough because he is just so naturally charismatic and funny in these. It's awesome. Keanu is in this movie for about as much as you see him in the trailers. I'd say it is a solid 10 minutes of screen time, and that's enough because this did not need to be a John Wick movie. Once again, Eve Makaro was a super cool character, and this was her movie, and I actually thought John Wick served his purpose very well in it. Only one question I ask as a John Wick fan is why is he having to follow orders to the Resca Roma in between the events of John Wick 3 and 4? I understand that they did something for him in John Wick 3, but, his card was cut, she said, or something like that, and his ticket was punched. I don't, I just couldn't understand why John Wick was on a mission in that time period, other than the mission he was on. And, I guess what I'm saying is I've always had a headcanon for what he was doing in between the events of 3 and 4, but that does not fit into that at all. And I guess that's my fault for thinking that, but I'm just like, I don't think he ever rested or relaxed for a second, or ever did anything that wasn't the number one objective for him. So I guess that's the only reason that I'm like, it's a little weird that Angelica Houston was able to just call him up and go, John Baba, can you go to Russia and take care of the little ballerina? But the action sequence we got between Keanu and Ana de Armas was a lot of fun because it really served to just show Keanu in fucking Baba Yaga beast mode. And it was fun that he wasn't killing her. He was just like a genuine hulking slasher monster action hero. Like the way Statham is in The Beekeeper. He is just throwing her through brick walls, towering over her, saying, leave. And I really thought that sequence was super cool because you've gotten to a point where it's like, I really like this character, but there's no way she's going to be able to beat Jonathan. And Jonathan doesn't want to beat her. And there was a unique thing about that, too, that made me just think it's because he thought she was cute because, we've all seen Knock Knock or Siberia, the Daughter of God or something, that 2015 one they were in together. They've been in a lot of movies together. Knock Knock. Love Eli Roth. But overall, I thought Keanu played great into the third act. Gabriel Byrne was a lot of fun as the villain. The way he was handled in the third act, I thought was actually pretty funny too, and all logical and made sense. And this is one of those movies that, like, if you're ever in the mood to theater hop, and you can find a showing of Ballerina that's past the part where she goes on her first mission, 85% of the rest of the movie is just going to be action sequences. So that would be the best movie to theater hop into ever. It's like if you can watch just the end of Godzilla X Kong New Empire, but for an actual length of a normal good movie. That's awesome. I wish Norman Reedus was in it more. That was my only complaint. I thought Norman Reedus was very underutilized in it, but what are you going to do? Didn't even entirely make sense to me why he was sidelined for the third act, other than to give her just center stage. Because I thought it would have made sense if he was in the village with her to get his daughter back. Could have even added an extra element of depth with how he'd interact with his former townspeople. I guess they wanted you to think he was dead, maybe. I don't know. But he only really gets to the one sequence. He's John Wick with a shotgun, so that's cool. But otherwise, Sam Porter Bridges was not in this as much as he could have been. But overall, like I said, I'd give this a 3.9, 3.8 out of 5. And it does not continue the streak of every one of these movies getting better, but it doesn't need to. Because comparison is the thief of joy, and this was just a stunningly good time at the movies. Lenny Wiseman, you delivered, bub. You did a good job with this one, and this was a good movie. The best movie he's ever made. And I really look forward to seeing where they go with this franchise from here. I know they're doing a spinoff with Donnie Yen's character, Kane. And this just filled me with hope for that. I never thought I would say that, but just because of how actual quality this was, not just a movie I liked, but actual quality, I'm like, okay, well, there's no reason to believe the Donnie Yen one won't be absolutely badass. So Um, I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see where they go from here. If they do another John Wick, I would love to see them do more John Wick between 3 and 4. I'd love to see them just since I have such an idea for what that looks like in my head, but maybe it's not what it actually is. I'd love to see that fleshed out into what it actually looks like to them. Because there was always meant to be a John Wick 5. Whenever John Wick 3 came out, they announced 4 and 5. And then I think because of the pandemic, they just made John Wick 4 the big final chapter. But it feels almost premature at this point because it feels like they really don't want it to be. I don't know if Keanu just doesn't want to keep doing the movies. I don't know if they don't know if they want to keep continuing them. But they announced John Wick 5. And I would hate to see them go back on the ending unless they really always planned on it or wanted to. I think more stuff in this part of the timeline. As Star Wars likes to always play in between episodes 6 and 7, I think this franchise could just constantly play between episodes 3 and 4. But yeah, that's my thoughts on From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And yeah, have a great day.